I did not smile for that.
I think I did either.
It's going to be one of those again with the half blinkers. That's okay. Good.
Hey, we're good.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Karen here from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. I'm here today with Tina.
Hello.
Oh, great. Perfect. So we're coming on a video to discuss a couple of topics. Fear of freedom. What exactly does that mean? What it feels like to be free and why there is a fear around it. Also, second topic is our session offerings and what we feel are the most effective ways to heal.
And I want to add, I think this goes in tandem with fear of freedom, and that's secondary gain. So those are themes that have been coming up a lot recently and running through a lot of client sessions and just in general. It's always interesting how these threads of consciousness weave through in that way, where they start popping up everywhere. So
Yeah, they come up in bulks.
yeah.
So
Anyone
fear of
here?
freedom.
Yeah. Hi, Susan. Hi, Trash Man.
Hello, guys.
Hi. Oh yeah.
So what is it like to be free? Well, we see a lot of clients that even ourselves who have like suffered over time and not having a taste of freedom because we don't know what that is. We live in a society, this matrix that is governed under slavery or like having like hierarchy. And then we are the slaves that are underneath that are feeding the system. So upon waking up and being able to recognize the construct that we're in, then we get to make a decision about how to go about that and how to start the process of freeing ourselves one thing at a time from the system. So, I think a lot of people, like it's really difficult to have a grasp on freedom. We do feel that there's a lot of people that don't want to suffer anymore because, it's constant. The attacks are constant. The not feeling safe is constant, all of that. And when you start to get a taste in healing or the process of sovereignty and whatnot, you start to feel something that is not really part of the everyday, like the peace, the stillness, the everyday beauty of life. Everything starts to slow down a little bit more. And that could be scary for some people, especially if they've been living in a state of chaos where life is part of the ups and downs and the very temporary peaceful spaces of not feeling that tension. But then it's like the cycle ends real quick because everybody's not got their shit together, or trauma responses that create anger and friction and all the things. So there are people who really don't know how to live in quiet because then it's too boring. That's why, like, when the right partner comes up, women say, men too, want to say, I want to have a partner who can show up for me, who will love me, who will share, life together, and it's going to be peaceful and fun and joyful. But then when you get that, it's boring. They're like, what's wrong with them? It's too quiet. So it's being able to see how we function in longer spaces of peace. I remember, I'll speak for my experience of experiencing Tina finally going into a peaceful environment. We were talking on the phone and I just hear her pacing, 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 pacing. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she was really like, don't know what to do with myself, because the body is on alert, waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting for something to happen. So that's already an indication of the fight or flight response, the what do you call it? The nervous system completely like, what's, I need something wrong to happen because I'm ready for it. I'm waiting for it. So, I mean, mentally, you could be like, okay, I know there's nothing happening. I'm safe here. But the body is not reacting in that way. So that's why it takes some time when you are able to create a safe environment for yourself, that it could take some time to, for them, for all your parts to feel that safety, be in safety, and know that it's okay to be in a quiet environment. That's what we should be in. This is where we need to be in, because if our body is on high alert all the time, we're literally pressing on the gas while the car is still on park, and it's not doing anything. It's just, you're just killing the engine. It's just going and going and going. So
Mhm.
yeah. What else, Tina?
So, I mean, really, the whole point of what we do in healing ourselves and becoming more conscious is to achieve these states of contentment and peace. But then it's like when we finally get there, we don't know what to do with ourselves because we've never functioned in that way. And that is especially true for those of us who have experienced narcissistic abuse in our lives. Because again, that the CPTSD comes in, and it's just like you're always waiting. And sometimes when you are in that peaceful state and you are content, you might begin to even self sabotage
That's a good point.
because your state of being wants the next drama. You're so used to it that you can begin to unconsciously create it for yourself. And so there's also this I had this really beautiful BQH session with a physician who's had other sessions before. And it's been interesting watching his consciousness expand through having these sessions. And where he was at now, the visual that came up was he was inside of this tomb or like tunnel, and it was covered in the dirt, but he was on his way out. But there was this fear of coming all the way out of the tunnel and into the light. So he was kind of just standing there with the dirt still dripping down on him, not wanting to fully come into the light, because then who are you without all of that suffering? Your
Mm.
whole identity changes. So ultimately, a lot of us get stuck in the cycles of suffering because our whole identity um is created around that suffering.
Yes. I remember a lot of experiences. I mean, just being when I was able to visit you, and there were like just new experiences that we were having together. And I'm like, oh, wow, you could actually take a car ride and not feel so awkward. Or we could take a car ride and not have to talk, and you're not going to bug me that I'm not saying anything. Or you could do things together and it's not eggshells, or it's not feeling like, okay, when are we going to fight, or when are you going to annoy me and then I want to jump out the car and roll out. Like, I've had fantasies about that, like in my last relationship, where it was just so intense that I just wanted to open the door and roll out, like terrible things. So it was really
Constant
good to see.
anxiety. It's like
Yes.
constant.
Yeah, definitely. And no, it was a good thing to see, because then, like, when you have those realizations that they're possible, you're like, okay, that's not bad. Great. And then you have to work with like your mental illness. There's a lot of layers to accepting peace and being peaceful and being content, or and being.
Yes, being.
Being.
Yeah. And a lot of, people when they're doing this work and they start to really dig through the layers and release and let go and integrate, and they really do achieve these states of peace and just feeling content, it's like, am I not doing enough? That comes up too. I'm not doing anything. But the whole point of doing the work is to achieve that state of beingness where you can just be and allow for that without having to be digging up more stuff to work through or creating more drama and chaos for yourself, but allowing yourself to be in those states of peace and contentment and beingness. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was an interesting experience coming out of a relationship with a narcissist and, um, doing the healing work and then coming together with you and like going on a vacation and not experiencing those levels of anxiety, like that constant, yeah, it's just always there. It's always there. And um, you think it's yours, but it's not even yours. It's you're absorbing them.
Yeah, that was huge. That was really big. Be like, oh, okay, great. Just let that sink in a little bit.
Because when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you internalize everything and they project everything onto you as if you're the one that's wrong. It is as if you're the one that's mentally ill and there's something wrong with you. Like, I'm perfectly fine and there's something wrong with you. So it was me all the time that had the anxiety, that was depressed, that there was something wrong with me, that needed medication, that whatever. It was always, there's something wrong with you,
Hmm.
but I'm totally fine. But what you realize later is there was never anything wrong with you. You were taking on all of their unexpressed anxiety.
Yeah, so you're just kind of bouncing back and forth, but you're the one who's pretty much holding it all.
Right.
So it ends up just bouncing inside of you.
Right. Because they're not taking responsibility for their emotional body, like at all.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, um, another part of this whole fear of freedom and having to restructure your identity and who am I without all of this pain and suffering is something called secondary gain.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good one.
secondary gain is an unconscious benefit, a benefit that you are receiving from being in this suffering. And it's probably not conscious to you, but it's there. And so, for example, when people come to us and they have entity attachments, yet they are receiving a benefit from that attachment, we might be able to remove it, but it's going to come right back
Hmm.
because you're receiving some kind of secondary gain from that attachment. For example, it might be creating a state of psychosis in your life. And so, through having that psychosis and having a diagnosis of mental illness, you don't have to work. And then there comes in like, family expectations and things like that. So it ultimately it gives you an excuse to withdraw from the world.
Hmm.
And it's the same with other chronic illnesses too, which, looking back on my experience, I think that was true for me. It was like I just couldn't I couldn't exist within this world in the way I was, in the way it is. And so it was like a portion of me created this illness as a way to extract myself from it, which worked in the end because here I am now, but it was a really long and painful journey,
Hmm.
because I didn't know anything about healing then. So yeah, we have to be really honest with ourselves and when we have specific ailments, illnesses, symptoms, we have to be brutally honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, what benefit am I receiving from having this thing?
Yes. And do I really want to get rid of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've lost potential clients to these reasons. And it's something that we make them think about because it's an investment of, do they want to invest in themselves and go on in it in the long haul? And the other question is, do we want to invest our time and energy with them? So if the client is ready to let go of the, the side benefits, the side gig that this entity is giving them, then yes, we'll walk them through it. But if they have no desire to want to do any work, because that's what it is. This whole thing is work.
Mhm.
Uh yeah, we're pretty straight up and upfront and saying, like, we don't want to work with you. It's not worth it for us.
Yeah. Because in order for us to be invested in you, you have to be invested in yourself. And you
Mhm.
have to be willing to do the hard things because healing isn't always easy. It's a complete restructuring of your entire life.
Yes, and admitting and facing a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's a lot of giving up, you know, and it's a lot of taking on responsibility and accountability for your life. And this is what keeps a lot of people in slavery because when you are free, then you actually have to take responsibility and accountability for everything in your life,
Mhm.
especially people that are coming out of like really rough circumstances and narcissistic abuse. Like, if we are really honest with ourselves, sometimes it's easier to be a slave than to take responsibility for our life and make really difficult decisions. You know, it's easier to be told what to do.
Yeah.
It's easier for you to be there and be told what to do and you just do that thing. So I think partially that's what holds a lot of people back from embracing their freedom and power and sovereignty. It's like it's just too much.
Yeah. And the comfort in all that they know.
Right.
It's hard to break out. It's scary, it's terrifying.
Right. There's a quote by Marianne Williamson about, like, I forget the whole quote, but it's not our darkness that we're scared of, it's our light. And that's true because most of us have existed in that darkness for so long. Who are we without it? Who
Mhm.
are we without that darkness?
Yeah. It's a lot of shedding and letting go.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And honesty.
Oh
Really,
yeah.
really, really being honest.
Yeah. And looking at yourself. It really is, the reversal of the game. Instead of looking like fully outside, you're really looking within at yourself.
Hmm. Speaking of looking within, this is a really interesting theme that's been coming up a lot recently, and it's how our reality, our outside reality, is always reflecting back to us that which is within us. Um, some things can be orchestrated by entities. I'm not going to say that's not a thing. That is a thing. However, when you it's always a reflection of something going on internally in our internal world, in our subconscious. For example, everything that was happening, over the new year with the red and black plaid that was showing up in our reality with the mustache man. I took that video down, but I made that clarification video about it. Those were, again, like pointing us inward to see, why is this showing up? And when you have recurring things that are showing up in your outer reality, it's a good time to say, okay, wait a minute, why is this showing up over and over and over again? And then start to look at the symbology of that, because as much as our dreams reflect back to us the state of our subconscious, so does our outer reality. It's almost like the same exact thing. So we can take a look at what's happening there and reflect inwardly and say, why is this showing up? What is the meaning of this? And how is it reflecting back to me what's inside of me, what I need to look at? Because there's like a huge purge that's happening now. Ever since the new year, there's been these really big solar flares that are coming in. And when these solar flares come in, they are bringing light, right? So they're bringing light, which is up, it's like an upheaval of the darkness within us and around us. So it seems really dark at the time as we're moving through this, but it's actually making room for more light as we're purging through whatever it is that's coming up at the time. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these themes of, this fear of freedom or fear of standing fully in the light, in our power and sovereignty. It's because of this like purge energy that's happening, which is really interesting to see, like the themes that are coming forward for people. And it feels really heavy and intense and all of those things, but it's like on the other side of that heavy and intense energy is an expansion, because everything happens here in contraction and expansion, right? It's just how it is here on Earth. And I think we're going to see these solar flares are, the sun seems to be getting hotter and there's more and more of them. And so it's going to be more and more intense, I think, as we move through 2023. And if the beginning is any, telling of what's coming, I think it's going to be a pretty intense year moving through all of this stuff and all of these layers.
Awesome. I know my face is not really expressing that awesomeness, but
It's so interesting how things come back around, because I've been talking about my first regression a lot, which I only have talked about like the one part of that, which was the matrix pods part. A new information is coming forward about that too, that I haven't fully put together yet. So I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to add confusion. But there was a second part to that session, and it was about the sun and how these waves of energy are coming from the sun into the earth, and how they're allowing for the release of the darkness from within us, and how it's not just like a single solar event, but it's these waves that are coming through. And I think that's really ramping up now, and why we're seeing so much like intensity within ourselves and within the collective as well. Yeah. So I just want to check on the comments. How are you guys feeling out there?
hopefully great. Hope you guys like my outfit. Just wearing my robe.
Hi, Roland, Born and Reborn, Erica, Sea Beach, the Puma, Abrasion Equation.
Oh wow, I haven't heard those
Fetch.
names in a while. What's up,
I know.
everybody?
Well, that's interesting. The trash man says it's funny how life works. Lately, me and my siblings have been thinking about and taking action regarding healing separately before talking to each other about it. Yeah. But it is really interesting because I've been noticing a lot of like similar themes that are running through everyone, it seems.
Mhm.
And healing is one of them. So it's really good to hear that you and your siblings are talking about healing.
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of the healing too and the fear of freedom is having to grieve who you once were. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, that's a really big point of a huge chunk of your identity or what you've built as your identity.
Yeah.
Or scared to reveal what is really under there. I've revealed a lot of what's under there. It's hard. Uh, I was trying to chronicle like, like the healing parts and how I'm able to be able to catch like let's say a subpart in a general sense. Like I know when I'm splitting and I know when I'm dissociating. So I'm able to even recognize how old the child is, what they're feeling and what they need, and then pull it back in. But after like the events of like, revealing, some altars and all of that, I felt like there was like a whole parte, in my field. And it was overwhelming because it's not like I was hearing words or chatter or things like that. It's just a feeling of they're there, they're there, and there's more than one, and that there's more than 15, and not being able to, it's like an overwhelm, kind of like when you go to a party and you're able to hold your space, but then when you come back home, you're like, whoa, that was a lot of energy I was in.
Hmm.
But that's what it feels like. There's just new energy in your field, or not new, but energy in your field that yes, you're trying to get to know and trying to um,
Integrate.
integrate in or welcome in, having conversations all the time and tapping yourself all the time and being like, okay, well, you're allowed to come in if you want. If not, you could sit where you're comfortable. And when you're ready, you can hang out or whatever. You're welcome to hang out. And they do. So it's really interesting being able to feel parts of yourself. I have an image in my mind of just like a porcupine, how it's just like you have the spikes like that. That's just like how I feel all the time. There's just like little spikes out everywhere. And you're just kind of like trying to push them in
Do
all the time.
you want to talk about what subparts are for people that don't know?
The subparts are how I'm just going to repeat what you say in session. Aspects of the self that split off when the trauma occurs. I have to say it with my eyes closed because I always hear you say it with my eyes closed. And a trauma meaning anything that overwhelms the brain.
Yeah.
So I was reflecting on that trauma and childhood and little things that would happen. And I agree with you in thinking like I'm pretty sure I didn't experience that much trauma for the CPTSD to be like a thing, all to create all these altars and whatnot. Um so there has to be something more to it. We were talking also about, like the stuff about how altars are created, and the topic of the SSP stuff. Like we really don't know if that's a real thing, if those are just serious implants like through the frequencies. um have like did they infiltrate like in while we're sleeping? I really don't know how this information comes about, if it's true. Like when people are talking about recall, I do feel to a certain degree there is truth to it, but how much of it is true? Like I think their experience of it is true, just like how my is true to
Mhm.
me, but how true is it in reality of it actually happening. I,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's, I don't really care to know. It's interesting just like if it comes up in exploration. I feel like my purpose or our purpose is that to reveal our parts as much as we possibly can so we can integrate them without needing to really know the details of it. If the details come up, great. And if they don't, fine. I feel the ones that I have seen so far, the ones that I do need to get because it is part of my everyday healing. Not being able to access anger is for sure like one of the things that I really need to learn, right? And do I want to learn how to be angry?
Yeah.
Maybe. Like Hulk.
Mhm.
You're gonna be a Hulk. She-Hulk. And because I don't know how to be angry. And I talked about how what anger feels like to me. I know that the theory of righteous anger, but I don't have the action of righteous anger. I don't know what that means and I don't know how to do that yet.
Because that
So
part of you is holding that anger and it hasn't integrated fully back in yet. Um, so this is a really important piece too, because that part of you, it holds your fight, not just the anger, but the ability to fight back.
yeah, definitely. I feel like my body reaction is usually an indication. I can tell by my body reaction what is coming up. And I do feel anger. I do feel rage, but
Fizzles.
it oh god, it fizzles fast. Like a really, really flat Pepsi.
Mhm.
So flat.
Yeah. One of the other things we've discovered too is that these parts can be controlled by entities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They can be, and not only are they controlled by entities, but they don't want to give up their connection with that entity.
Yeah.
So that can become an issue as well in
Yeah.
trying to like convince them to come back.
Yes. I had a couple of dreams after I wanted to, well, while I'm integrating, because I'm still currently integrating, and I was able to see the rage parts of myself, the fractal that is holding all the anger and the fight and all that, and it was hanging out over there in Saturn, and it was able to like really create like this cosmic scream of harnessing like this huge all my stuff. I was like, oh, there it is. It was really interesting to witness because it is myself. And I'm like, okay, so it really does. It's really in there. So, I mean, especially when things are like super alien to you. And because culturally I wasn't allowed, and in my family, not allowed to have feelings, not allowed to be angry. You get in trouble for being angry. You're not allowed. And you, you have to be a lady and whatever that means. And
Yeah.
so there's that. And then whatever had happened in that split part that really just had to be taken wherever it had to go, and taking all of my anger that I'm feeling in this vessel, and it's like being channeled to that part all the time. So when I do feel it, it really goes up and it's out, it's gone. So before I could even hulk out, I'm already like, okay, well, great. Like a little hiccup, like, okay, well, that's cute. Like, glad that's over. It's not, but I'm left with the remnants of the anger, which comes out as sadness and disappointment and all the other things.
Mm.
But to feel like I'm so mad. That's what it sounds like. It doesn't sound mad. Because I remember I was practicing with Tina. She's like, "You're mad." I was like, "I'm mad." Like, why does it come out like that? Why does it sound like that? Even my fists look weak. Like it's so weak.
I'm so mad.
I know, but that's what it is. Like I can't explain it more than what you hear. That's what it it's gone. It's like saying, like, when you're laughing and saying, like, that's what it feels like to be mad. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's such a disconnect. So I'm hoping with that part that I was able to see, inviting it back to come in my space. It has not integrated, but it is in my space. So it's just, being like a protector self, which I'm allowing, and it's cool. They're not really not ready yet to come in. So yeah.
Yeah. Kevin says, Karen, you and I should start a support group for splitters, dissociators anonymous.
You got it, dude. It'll just be me, you, and all of our splits.
Yeah. I had something coming up, but I forget. I forget it. I feel like I keep blanking out.
Yeah, I think that's purposeful. Like, I was feeling also like this morning while I hibernated for the last 3 days, did not really do much. I slept a lot, which was really great. Not that it was like restful, but as restful as it could have been. And but this morning, I was talking about, like when I get the cymbal sound in my ears, like psh, 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 like that's when I'm getting like hit by frequencies. And I was thinking that the other day, I'm like, wow, it hasn't happened in a while. And of course it started to happen again. This morning, especially, hit like hard that I felt like as if it had knocked me back unconscious.
Mm,
I just remember it being in there in between, like kind of like waking, but not really fully waking, that it was happening. And then I passed out again.
mm.
But it was a lot, like in between.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I've been feeling a lot of really inorganic frequencies too, and I hear it as a really high pitched sound in my left ear for some reason, always the left ear. And just feeling really exhausted the last 3 days too. So,
Yeah. It's been a rough couple of days, but I mean, I think we just take the rest and yeah, our workload, like we usually try to keep the weekends for ourselves and
yeah,
not really do much unless we have some sessions that we need to catch up on. But
yeah,
no, yeah, this weekend was quiet.
yeah. I wanted to say too, like about the SSP stuff, I think it is beneficial to, if you are having recall and memories and things like that, it is beneficial to have them. And then in order to recall whatever you need to recall and integrate those parts of you. But like for Karen and I, we don't need to figure it all out. Like, like,
No, I don't care to, honestly. Like I watch the videos of people talking about it at those conferences and it's interesting information. But at the end of it, who cares? Like
right.
really, like what does it have to do with my life here? I'm not gonna go off and be like, all right, kids, go to the military. No.
And also too, yeah, I think I just want to like retrieve any parts of me that are there and then get out of here. Like I don't care what's happening there. I
Right.
really do. I feel like it's another rabbit hole that is keeping people distracted in a
Oh,
way.
totally. Which is why it's good to just kind of skim around it and get what you need without having to find yourself in another box, rabbit hole, or
Hmm.
identity attaching, you don't
Hmm.
need to. I find like a lot of them are very interesting and important in terms of integration purposes only. But to go in the rabbit hole and to know how many lives you've had and what part of the federation you're in, I don't really give a shit about that, honestly, like for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because ultimately it's really just about like when we break it down, It's about garnering enough strength to get out of here this time. Because we have to be strong when we're leaving the body. We have to have as much energy as we can and in alignment with our true self, our divine self, our spirit to, break through whatever we need to break through. There's an interesting interview on Whitley Strieber's channel that I'll link in the description later. And it was with this couple and they were talking about a book, and it was all about the grays and everything. And it's just interesting how it all ties back in with the reincarnation trap.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting too, because it also ties back in with what I saw in my first regression with the matrix pods and the grays there. And in the secret, in the book of James, in the Nag Hammadi text, Jesus talks about the specifically 3 archons are going to be there at the life review. And well, he calls them like toll collectors. And he says 3. And I saw specifically 3 grays in at the matrix pod scene inside the pyramid that supposedly reverts the souls back to Orion.
I bet.
So that's interesting. He tells you, though, specifically what to say to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this couple on this podcast were talking about this book. And I'm thankful for it because I did get the book and it's really dry and dense and scientific. So I'll link that down below too. But I
Is that the one that Lana's
appreciated the
supposed to?
summary of it. Yeah, Lana's reading it too.
Oh, good. Okay, Lana, if you're here, summary, please.
We need the cliff notes. Yeah, but they talk about the atoms and how when we leave the body we have to like break through the atoms and like the force that has been created. And it also linked me back to something that came through in Amanda's session about this mimicked quantum particle that I
Mm-hmm.
think also might be involved in why we're stuck, because the particle is not a natural particle, it's a mimicked creation, which might be why we haven't been able to break through it. But the good part about that is she said that it's breaking down, like that particle is breaking down. Kevin also, when I said that in our group, Kevin mentioned something about CERN. So I don't know. I don't have it all like fully linked yet, but there are all of these things that are coming together. And I'm just like waiting for the click, like when it clicks.
Well, you're telling me I know.
Yeah.
That click. I'm waiting for the anger to click.
Yeah. I'm waiting for it all to click because I think there's still a lot to be understood from that first regression and the matrix pods and the pyramid and the grays and like all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
I still believe that if we have enough of our energy, that I don't even believe that we're going to have to go through a life review. I really think that
The laugh review.
the last,
I want one. I want one just for the very purpose of understanding what really is real and what wasn't. Like what was bullshit and what was whatever. And it could very well be the complete opposite of what we really take as reality and be like, oh, you bamboozled me, Jesus, or whatever. Yeah.
because the interesting thing about that whole thing is that, you guys, I don't know if you guys saw Bonnie Jennings' interview with us a while back, but when she had her NDE, she had her life review with aliens, and she on in Orion, And there was also a matrix pod involved. There's just a lot of things overlapping. And last Monday, we were supposed to have our regression with her to go back to that life review and see what happened there, because that was really the only part that she couldn't remember. And she wanted to retrieve that information. And of course, the night before, her internet goes out. The company tells her she never had an account with them.
It's just weird
So,
because she's with them for a long time.
yeah, she was with them for a long time. So she had to go to another company and get internet, and we have to wait now for our regression back to that. So I think that there's really we're on to something. We're on to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, well, leading into that, would you like to talk about our session offerings
Session offerings.
and what we feel or what we've seen actually since introducing the body scan? We feel that it has made like a complete trio. Well, a complete trio. Yeah, a complete trio of
Yeah.
sessions.
You know, a lot of people think that they can go into a session, connect with their higher self, and then just heal everything in one session.
I
And
wish
that,
I went into like a crazy thing just recently because I had like 3 back to back that I didn't even forgot about because of that's how the energy was so inside
yeah,
from all the healing or whatever.
that said, we can get a lot done. But here's the thing, too, like, in order for you to have the clearest connection and channel to your divine self, there has to be some clearing work done. Because if you're going straight into a BQH session without having done any other work like this, like quantum work, then you might get a mixed bag of what's actually happening, and not have a clear connection to your higher self, because there's other ego parts in the way. Ego parts meaning inner children, other subpersonalities that might come up, um, entities involved, implants, things like that. And those create blocks to having a true connection with your divine self. And that's why, instead of going straight to a BQH session now, we really recommend starting with an RSR to get a good cleanup of your energy, and then going directly into a body scan session, so that we can address any inner children. And this is it's going the process is going to be different for everyone, depending on where you are in your process, in your healing. uh, but yeah, addressing any inner children, any remaining entities or implants, any trauma that's creating really big blocks to your connection to your higher self. So I find that there needs to be some work done first in most cases before going directly to a BQH to connect with the divine self or the higher self. And these, RSR is a great place to start. And then the body scan session is great because you get to experience for the first time what it's like to be in that space, because it's a really weird space to be in the first time you're in there. When you come out of the conscious mind, like we're all in the conscious mind right now, and you go into the subconscious, it's a weird
It's a different ball
place.
game.
Yeah. It's a weird place to be. And then you hear yourself back on the recording, like Kevin knows. You hear yourself back on the recording, and you're like, oh my God, who's talking? That doesn't even sound like me. So, Yeah, and the point of doing, like, say, like remote spirit release and some body scan sessions first is to get used to being in that space, to know what to expect, so that when you do have your Beyond Quantum Healing session, that you'll know what to expect. You'll have, which we're hoping that people come in with no expectations. However, that's a bit unreasonable. Everybody has some expectations going into a session, but really being open to whatever it is that presents itself
Yeah.
is really important. And that way, when you finally get to that, you'll have a clear channel to your divine self. You'll know what it feels like to be in that space, so it won't be surprising to you or confusing, because that's what it can really feel like at first. It feels confusing
Hmm.
because you have the conscious mind is there, but you can't fully access it. So you when you're in that space, you can't even really access the critical thinking. So you kind of are just going with what's coming up. So there's a lot to it. And especially for people with like ongoing issues or chronic illnesses and things like that. Um, I think that going through the process and not going straight to a Beyond Quantum Healing session is the most beneficial way to go about it. Don't you think? And this way you
Hmm.
also you get to tap into your body too, which is where all the trauma is stored. So the more we can release from the body, the clearer your channel and your vessel's going to be to make that connection.
Yeah.
And the body scan sessions have been so powerful, and some of them even more so than Beyond Quantum Healing sessions, I think.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of huge physical changes and healing after some sessions.
Yeah, yeah. And you're doing, and what's amazing about those sessions is that you're doing the work yourself of releasing whatever that is, whether it's stored emotions or inner child healing or trauma or even entity clearing. We've done some body scans were just purely entity clearing because
Hmm.
there's so much coming up in layers. So, yeah, just looking through the comments.
We will usually give our professional opinion, but yeah, we could tell right away, from an email or just from, what they are talking about, what exactly they need and how to. Our approach is usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And yeah, and what I've been doing mostly is really recommending just like an initial consult, just to talk and see where you are and how we can best help you like the most efficiently and effectively moving forward.
Yeah. We don't usually push for things, but sometimes we will push for like you need a clearing first because I don't want to work with you in the field and you're, you know, when there's clearly an entity present.
Right.
Yeah.
Born and Reborn says, do you view the high pitch frequency in the ear as a direct attack, a download, or just general frequencies that are hitting all of us? Well,
Uh,
I'm really not sure
yeah. It's hard to
if
say.
it's hard to say. I'm always like back and forth is like, is this a direct attack or is this hitting all of us? Um, I
Maybe
can
the
tell.
sensitives can feel it.
Yeah, I can tell when it's a download because it's not a high pitched frequency. It's more like it sounds like Morse code to me, like a really subtle Morse code, but it's not a high pitch. But the high pitched frequencies are usually followed by like a hot flash that comes through my body. So I think that Whether it's like 5G or a direct attack, I'm not sure. Are you already in their web or trap once you've started the life review and begin engaging with them?
Are you already? Or you are already?
Are you already?
Oh, I don't know. I've never had one. So I mean, I'm just saying, not saying like I really want one if that's going to be the trap. But I mean, just out of curiosity, maybe we'll know even when we get out. I'm sure we'll have the power to be like, okay, tell me, true God, like, was that real down there or what really happened? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm hoping to skip the thing altogether.
Yeah, like not see any of any of that. It's kind of like you're dead and you're like, I'm free.
Yeah. Should we pull an animal card for everyone? We'll pull a collective spirit animal card.
Okay.
Aren't they pretty?
Yeah, it's pretty.
This is by Colette Baron Reed. I like her. The Spirit Animal Oracle.
Yeah, yesterday Tina pulled a card for our group and we got what was it? Seahorse?
It's seahorse.
Yeah.
Watch and wait. Which is a good I should read that for everyone too. So it was really about just standing back, not getting involved in the drama, not getting triggered by the drama, and just stepping back and watching from a higher perspective and not having to get involved. Also, what was the other thing? What was the other part? Yeah. So it's not getting involved in the drama, being a neutral observer. So when something comes up, there's some kind of friction or combative energy even that arises. It's like not, it's like standing back, watching, waiting a little bit, not getting pulled into it, observing what's coming up within you. How is it making you feel? And, you know, why is it making you feel that way? And not having to engage, not having to get pulled into the fight or the argument, and just watching as an observer.
And just see Lana with her cop outfit and her timestamp notepad.
Yeah. So being non-reactive and not taking their words or behaviors personally. Because usually when something like that happens, it's not about you, it's about whatever this person is going through and then projecting that onto you. So the more you can step back from that and see it in a neutral, from a neutral place, the higher perspective you actually have on it, and realize that it's not about you. You don't need to get involved and just let it go. There was something else about that. Anyway, let me look and see what comes out. I feel like we can say no to their life review too. I don't even want to get to that point. Like, I just want to bypass it altogether. And I think we can. I think if we have enough power, strength, and energy, we can just blast through that layer, whatever that is. Okay. What does everyone need to know? Oh, the lion spirit.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Courage.
Be generous of spirit.
Oh, that's cute.
Number 37. I love the lion. That's like my favorite. Yeah, the lion's all about courage and strength. I was just saying that courage, strength, bravery,
Mm-hmm.
stand in your truth, be your true self, not being afraid to shine, to take up space. Lion's spirit appearance is a reminder that you have been given the gift of pride and a healthy sense of your worth to express your divine, authentic self in a unique way. You are both the king and the queen, secure in your prosperity and wisdom, and generous of spirit as you help others. Take pride in your ability to serve from the heart. Lion heart. Lions have a big heart. Contentment with what you have right now allows you to use your resources wisely as you give to others in ways that educate, heal, inspire, and delight. Be proud yet humble. Practice gratitude, and you will find that the accolades come to you. The accolades that come to you are no match for the joy of knowing what you have been able to do for others through expressing the bounty of generosity within you. Lion Spirit knows there is a great savanna before you, and many who will benefit from the healthy expression of your unique set of gifts if you choose to work in partnership with Spirit. All your relationships flourish as you express your worth and generosity with humility and kindness. What a blessing you can be to all. So, the protection message is: do you doubt you can do much good? Are you stuck in a state of scarcity thinking? Who am I to lead? Who am I to step into my dream? Who am I to have an amazing relationship? Who am I to think I can help? Lion Spirit is here to tell you that the antidote for low self esteem is stepping into healthy pride. Of course, you can do all that you desire. And this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, right? Like the fear of freedom
Mm-hmm.
and not believing that we can step into all that we are, but we hold ourselves back in ways and secondary gain comes into that too. How are we benefiting from not being all that we are?
Yeah. There's a lot of excuses there that we're used to taking. So it is a lot of responsibility and being free. And yeah, the accountability part is the hardest because then you have to claim full responsibility in all aspects of your life and not make any, can't use an excuse anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. The spark of great spirit lives inside you, and you are here to steward that amazing energy into the world. Lion Spirit knows that Great Spirit invested in you so that you might be a channel for love and generosity. Take pride in your role, seeking to bring abundance of love into the world. Yeah. So yeah, embodying who we really are it's a big step, and it does take courage and bravery to really step into that. I
It's hard to be
remember
brave.
it is. Well, something that came through in a session once, and I always remember it, and it was courage is not, what was it? Courage is not the lack of fear, but feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember how difficult it was for me to like start this YouTube channel. This was not easy for me. It took a lot to put myself out there. But I just knew there was something bigger than me that, and that's why I pushed through, because it's not about me, it's about the message and what we have to share in healing ourselves and embodying who we are, in um disconnecting from the matrix and eventually exiting out of here. So,
Yeah, I saw some old videos that I had in, like back in the day when we were using only our cell phones, and I don't even know what program. Skype? I don't know.
yeah.
Back when you used to host.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really hard. Not knowing how to say or starting the conversation, just getting through like the super awkwardness. Yeah. Those were the days.
Super awkwardness. It's so awkward. If you have a sudden, unexpected death, that's a good question, Carly.
I've thought about that. I have no idea what to tell you, Carly. I thought about that myself. And like, I guess at that point, it's like do as much of the healing as you possibly can and make that your incentive to commit every day to yourself. Because if something happens, then it's like use all that force within you to get out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those sudden deaths, especially like deaths, traumatic deaths or deaths by accident, that's when you can see spirits sticking around, not knowing or understanding that they're dead. So that's the first step, I guess, would be like realizing that you're dead.
And then be like, okay, I'm fucking dead. And then whoop, Mighty Mouse out of here.
Yeah. And then I think again, like going through the portal of the heart, um, because your heart knows where home is. Your heart knows where home is. So following that, and let that be your guide. Yeah, busting out. We are powerful.
100%.
I think, yeah, and not having any fear. I mean, really, there's nothing to fear.
Yeah,
Be like the
that's
lion.
something that you need to be. Exactly. That's something you need to work on here so that, and be comfortable with fear, comfortable with doing hard things, comfortable with facing your inner fears and yourself, and, being honest about some scary revelations that may come up. That way they have nothing to use against you if you are caught up in backed up over there. I think it's good to know where your vulnerable points are as much as you possibly can so that they can't use it against you, guilt you back in.
Right. And yeah, really being solid, confident in who you are, not having any doubts, because I feel like it's those doubts or that fear that gets us sucked back in. That's what I've noticed from like NDEs and pre-birth memories and things like that. It's like if they even have an ounce of doubt, it's like, okay, you're going back.
Yeah.
I think practicing lucid dreaming is important too, so that when you do exit the body, you're not so confused. Which Karen and I have been doing, and I have yet to have a lucid dream. So
Yeah, it's definitely a practice that I feel that is next on the list of like, well, we're trying to get ourselves there because there's still a lot of purging happening.
mhm,
Lots and lots purging.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, if you ever feel like you want to be guided in anything or you need help in anything, we're here. Um, we do offer payment plans if for those people who are unsure if it's affordable or not. Like we don't have interest on our plans. So we give you, the opportunity to save up and, pay at your convenience, increments that you can afford so that, you know, save up to get to your goal. Because if you really want it, it'll happen. And this is what we tell people too. You have to really want it
Yeah.
and the money will come.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so. Just nice and comfy in my little robe. No, I think that's
Mm,
good. I'm just waiting for the good weather to come.
yeah.
I'm over the winter.
I'm over it too. We haven't even had any snow yet, but it's
Oh,
just,
but do you always get snow? You don't always get snow.
no, but usually by this time we've had some.
At least one snowfall.
Mhm.
You haven't had one at all? Oh, wow. I have one every Friday, apparently.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Leo. Hello, Leo.
Hello.
Yeah. So, what we've seen is that I think I know like the soul part itself is part of the matrix construct, and it's our spirit that's actually free. So, I think like we have to drop all of these things that are not really us in order to exit out of here, too. That's a big part. And I think we can do that while we're in the body. I
Mhm.
think we can do all of that while we're in the body. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to do that. Yeah. Anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Today's Monday, right?
I have an idea. No.
It's not?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No. Yes. Oh my God. Wow. Like that's Wednesday. It's Monday? Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. This is also another thing that I wanted to do, to tell people is that when you're actively integrating or facing your splits and whatnot, um, because they're coming in and out of your field, you're not really fully embodied all the time. So I feel for myself that memory can be a little sparse. and be presence, because presence is being blocked, not blocked, but like it's parts of you like fractals that are just coming in and out. So sometimes I could be talking and mid-sentence and I'm like, don't, I go, I hope it makes sense. Because I don't, it's not, they're just coming in and out. So that's just another thing I wanted to point out.
No, as you were saying that, I was like seeing, I don't know if there's people that post videos on YouTube and other platforms with that have DID, like dissociative identity disorder, and they will show like the real ones, not the people that are just pretending, but people that really have it. Um, they will show like how those switches happen between alters.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's a really good point to make.
I'm not that in tune to that degree, but in tune enough to know when they're moving through all the time. Not all the time, that's not true, but enough during the day.
Yeah. No, you're pretty good at maybe not knowing like which specific one, but knowing that, an inner child is present or whatever.
Yeah, I could pretty much tell. I'm very suspicious about the 3-4-year-old. I find that's the one that was the biggest Splitsville, but I was just working.
Oh, that was the one with the doctor hospital thing.
Yeah, hospital thing. Fucking hospitals.
We'll have to investigate that.
Yeah, more to discover.
Yeah.
Well, all right,
All right.
everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. Sorry I wasn't active in the live chat, but I appreciate y'all for coming in. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, comment or anything you'd like to say. We are open to whatever you would like to say. And maybe it'll give us incentive for future videos and other topics that we have yet to talk about. Or if you want us to elaborate on certain topics, please let us know. So that's it. We wish you all a beautiful night, beautiful day, wherever you are in the world. And we send you our love. And we'll see you guys again.
Have a good week, guys.
Peace.
See you next
Yeah,
time.
it's Monday.
It's
Peace.
Monday.